What's up, friends? Or if you are reading this, my amazing supporters. It's time for another month of review in the development process of Star Citizen. And if you like this and want to read it a little bit earlier, just have it in your hands to read it, you can become a patron using the link in the video description below. That comes with a couple more perks as well. Now, let's get one thing clear here. I am not or never have been a professional in this industry. Everything that I talk about is based on my own logic and just following the process as time goes by. So, with that disclaimer being said, I'd like to thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. The AI features team last month had some interesting developments. They improved the low-level patrol tech code to allow for more customization in AI paths through subsumption, allowing for different variable types to impact the path that an AI might take while patrolling. For those who don't know, subsumption is simply the logic an AI uses to react and interact to its environment and the characters around it. It's pretty complex stuff, and they've been iterating on it for over 4 years now. Among other usable improvements, the team made great progress on combat characterizations, allowing various AI to have more or less proficiency with weapon use. While previously, fire cadence and rate were limited by global modifiers, skill formulas are now produced to ensure different abilities for different characters based on the weapons they use and the weapons they're rated for. This is similar to another combat modifier that we've seen in the past that I like to focus on, which shows the difference between trained, confident, untrained, and nervous, untrained AI in combat situations. With combinations in NPC personalities like this, a vast variation of encounters can be ensured based on your location and your situation. Sub-targeting of components also seems to have been a major focus of AI. These AI are actually getting kinda smart. What this does is allow NPCs to target specific parts of a ship or vehicle, like thrusters, cockpits, power systems, or other components. This will also transfer over to on-foot characters as well, who may be using an anti-vehicle weapon or a mounted turret. I guess it also allows for Merlin aerobics. We also got an update on AI abilities to locate the necessary usable that they need, determine its availability, and retrieve it when needed. We've seen this in testing quite a bit as recently as last year, and what we're seeing here is hopefully the final stages of engineering and art for this feature. The AI tech team last month worked on the EVA system. This system is due to be transitioned over to the same IFCS system that ships use. What the AI tech team is doing here, however, is making sure that AI can efficiently and effectively determine a reasonable path through 3D space, with plans to also support automatic entries and exits from ships and other bodies in space. This will be important in building out space battles, boarding actions, and even instances in which you fight or interact with NPCs in ships and stations that have lost gravity. Character art started February working on new assets for the refinery decks, something players will have their hands on in a month to help flesh out the activities and atmosphere of the areas. New armor and outfits were begun for hospitals, which are scheduled for the 3rd update of the year. However, these outfits seem to be coming for 3.14, which means we'll probably be seeing them earlier with the healing tech as opposed to later with the hospitals that they're made for. The team also concepted 2 new armor sets, as well as several backpacks due to be included in 3.14. We don't know what these will look like, but we have some ideas from recent concepts and sketches from last year. The addition of standalone backpacks is going to be big, and absolutely necessary considering the huge inventory changes coming to the game this year. Over at our in-game organization, the Garden Interstellar Initiative, we can't wait to work them into our standard setups for the science and industry divisions. February was a big month for the art environment team. Docking arms were a high priority feature that has been at the hearts and minds of many for years. If you haven't seen it yet, check out my video which goes over the history of the feature in the corner of the screen or the video description. Colonialism-styled outposts were also an important feature of the month, with white box signed off and work beginning on the gray box process. I also have a video discussing the architectural styles of the video, and you can check that out as well. New asteroid types have begun to be placed in the recently added stellar gas clouds, which will hopefully help to diversify the areas and lighten the load of all those space rocks. The landing zone team finalized the halls for an upcoming event, whatever that means, and completed tasks for Orison, the floating city due to be implemented this year. I'm guessing that the upcoming event is Fleet Week. The ship art team had an interesting month. Suffering from the weather situation in Texas, the Nova tank was knocked a bit off schedule, though it is still due for gray box review. Hopefully it can still be released sometime in April or May. The constellation Taurus has reached the final art stage and looks to be on target for a July release. The Starlifter seems to be progressing through the final art stages as well. And if you haven't seen my recent video about how the giant cargo hauler was made, check it out down below in the video description. The Aegis Redeemer, the small gunship bristling with weapons, is making good progress through gray box as well, and the update pass on the Aegis Gladius is almost done. The Gladius is commonly used as the testbed for all new ship technology entering the game. It is the most commonly used ship in Squadron 42 and is therefore the most important to bring up to the golden standard first. A couple of interesting points came from weapon art as well. The Moab bomb has been completed art-wise. I'm still waiting to see what that will be useful for. The first pass of my new weapon love affair, the Volt Parallax Energy Rifle, was completed, and the standalone cutting tool, which will be a more reliable version of the simple multi-tool attachment we have now, has completed final art. This may be the very first actual tool that we get to see in the game besides the multi-tool. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that stuff. Alright, you guys know how this goes. I'm no developer, like I said, but I'm going to do my best. The engine team was able to find some communication issues between the game code, animation system, and physics system, and fixed them. They also worked alongside the actor features team to develop a new passive ragdoll mode and implement it into the skeleton physics system. Perhaps this will make deaths and everything that follows more natural looking and dynamic in the future. The team also helped with an issue blocking cooperative locomotion and improvements to touch bending of shorter vegetation assets. This will improve the experience walking through brushes, prairies, forests, and other grassy locations that I don't know the cute little names for. The team developed the physics needed for wheeled vehicles to work. While meant primarily for the new carts we're getting next month, I hope this work, being part of the engine, will help with buggies, rovers, and other future wheeled vehicles. A first draft of the planetary volumetric clouds on the engineering side was completed, and artists are now having a go with the prototyping. For the Gen 12 renderer, support for the remaining secondary vertex streams, such as skinning attributes, velocity, and secondary UV streams, was added. Yeah, no, I have no idea what that means, but I keep hearing people say there's like a lack of detail when it comes to the core tech updates, so there's a little bit of it. I will say though, the lack of iCache updates or even Super Pcache updates is a little annoying. I'd like to know how things are going with that, even if it's just same old, same old. Mounted Guns saw a lot of work in February in preparation for an April release, offering a new option for anti-vehicular combat or anti-tons-of-people combat. There was actually quite a bit of work put into this feature to make sure character positioning would work well for aiming down the sights, while also looking good to those observing. As the camera in Star Citizen is actually placed inside the eyes of the character, a lot of consideration needs to go into how animations will work in order to be believable for the person doing them and for the people watching. On the more technical side, character avoidance saw work, allowing NPCs the ability to avoid each other and other players simultaneously. For instance, moving between two passers-by, or coming around a corner while also avoiding another character passing them. This was done through the implementation of new code, as well as revisiting some old character animation flows that are already in-game. The gameplay-focused feature team, my favorite people, did some mobiGlas stuff last month. I love hearing mobiGlas improvements, mostly because it's such a far-reaching feature that, even if there's not much gameplay to back it up, is going to touch every single person who jumps into the game. The Reputation app continued development for next month's implementation, and design iterations were made on the Asset Manager app, which will be used for all inventories that you will have access to. This is listed as being planned for launch in Alpha 3.13, but the state of development with design iterations and the progress tracker tell me otherwise. This is most likely a typo. Maybe not, but probably. They also began to plan for the cargo refactor, aiming to physicalize cargo grids. This is huge! This means cargo that is bought or found can now be moved on and off the cargo grid system, essentially combining the two sides of cargo that we experience in the game right now. This would be a massive improvement that could change the cargo mission system and our ability to interact with cargo as well. Refining gameplay saw polish with improvements to the clunkiness and flaws. Unfortunately, I don't think this will bring the improvements that we would like to see, such as breaking up work orders, but I'm open to surprises. The mission team put work into polishing new and upcoming missions, which are sorely needed. The bounty hunting system has been improved so that bounties outside of monitored zones can give away their locations. Because, bounties need to be smart. This will go quite well with security system improvements coming later this year. This system will allow automatic crime stat applications due to trespassing, and enable players to sneak through systems or areas without getting busted. Stealth play, anybody? There will also now be the possibility for devs to hijack screens in order to display important messages and breaking news. The Vehicle Features team focused on docking, which is a long-desired feature coming in the 3.13 updates as ship-to-ship and ship-to-station docking. Quality of life improvements were added retroactively to allow for specific docking permissions and messaging regarding your docking status on approach. A velocity match mode was also implemented for assistance docking with moving vehicles, which is pretty tough. This is something that used to be included in the game universally, but was very resource intensive, so they had to remove it. Hopefully, now we can see it start to get its way back into the game. Missile flight dynamics continued to receive work to allow for missiles to behave differently based on where in its path to the target it is. Unfortunately, this item was delayed until July, but should come out more polished than originally planned due to that fact. Thruster VFX, which were improved to react with surroundings last year, are soon to be based on a per-thruster basis, meaning dust will effectively be kicked up in the proper directions from the proper thrusters in various circumstances. MFDs continued to be prototyped as we saw last year, though this may be a confirmation that what we did see last year was definitely not functional, and is still a ways off as per the progress tracker. Jump points saw renewed focus as teams were freed up from other tasks, and are expected to be implemented alongside server meshing, a massive piece of important technology. One big focus for the graphics team last month was the Gen 12 renderer. That's core tech. Work continued on reach parity with the old shadow code path so that it can be enabled by default. Whatever that means. Last month, the lighting team built prototypes for interactive light in player habs, so you can go flicky to your lights in your apartment. Lighting also worked intensively on the pyro system, which we actually haven't seen any work on in a few months now. They worked on the star, affecting its brightness and appearance at various levels. They also worked on lighting in Orison, at the habs, spaceport interior, which we have yet to see, and the bar. Narrative spent time working on the language of the signs and environmental storytelling around the verse, as well as future content that requires help from the mission teams. They also organized voiceovers for future landing zones and events, most likely including Orison and Fleet Week. Narrative also kicked off discussions with UI and design on the next step on incorporating all of the fictional dispatches that they have in their backlog into the game. This can include things like news updates in-game and short stories which can be experienced while sitting around in your ship, or lost in a cave. I didn't do that. Last month, Turbulent finished their first milestone in the server meshing project. And while they're not the only team working on that monumental feature, it's good to hear that they've got people who are dedicated to just that section, because it's important. They've also delivered features to allow the reputation system to provide the player with feedback when their rep changes, visualize the reputation history, and maintain preferences applied by the player. Expect to see this in-game next month. Vehicle Tech made improvements to the ground vehicle system in anticipation of the Tumbril Nova tank. Something I'm really interested in seeing in ISC, as I want to know what uses it will have in the game right now. This involved expanding turret targeting, weapon usage, realistic tread motion, and the use of tread-based vehicles. Further improvements were also made to the radar and scanning systems, which will be available to us in Quarter 3, allowing us to scan, locate, and get information about objects and vehicles both on foot and in our own vehicles. Improvements to the interaction system have also begun, which are sorely needed. While the system is much better than the old use system from the old engine, there is still a great deal of speed, efficiency, and flow that needs to be implemented to make it an actually enjoyable experience. Last month, VFX also worked on the vehicle radar ping effects. Very exciting. I can't wait to see what new effects they have planned for this. They've had some working concepts internally for years. Hopefully we get some of that when the new system is released. Pyro also received some additional planetary effects for some of the areas in the new star system. Work continued on gas cloud interior effects, including small debris that can bounce off your hull without causing damage. I hope we can hear that. And to finish, work continued on the Crusader Hercules, another upcoming ship, and the rollout of the new signed distance field shield technology. This monthly report was pretty solid and actually had a lot of visuals to accompany it, which I really enjoyed. Interesting news with a few big reveals, though I suspect there are a few things they aren't mentioning here that are being worked on for this year. Despite that, as always, I still consider this the best source of information regarding the process of development in this game. There's plenty going on in the company right now, and it's an incredibly exciting time to look forward to the next couple of quarters. If you enjoy these monthly reports and want to keep getting more to keep up with the development of Star Citizen, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you'd like to support me, get these monthly reports written in text, or other little perks here and there, consider hopping over to patreon.com in the video description and supporting me for as low as $1 a month. Regardless of what you choose, I hope you learned something today, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.